Thank you for coming. My name's State Senator Julia Coleman. I'm joined by Representative Elliot Engen. I represent Carver County, District 48.
And District 36A, Lionel Lakes area.
And we're here before you today because as I was celebrating Mother's Day with my little boys, I took to Twitter to find out that Democrats are celebrating Mother's Day by removing the provision to exempt baby products from the sales tax. I'm incredibly disappointed to see the Senate back off the sales tax exemption for baby products. This was a unanimous, bipartisan vote in both bodies. With an $18 billion surplus, you can shake a couch cushion around here to find $7 million to help growing families in the state of Minnesota. Senate Republicans and House Republicans have been fighting all year for bigger, permanent tax relief, and this was one small Republican victory to do our part to help growing families in the state. Taking it off the table on Mother's Day of all days not only hurts parents, but it seems to be purely vindictive against a Republican success. My colleague and I are here today to call on DFL senators and leadership and tell them to put this small but meaningful tax cut back onto the negotiating table. If you want to say a few words.
Well, happy Mother's Day, folks. This is what the DFL gave you. You know, at the end of the day, this wasn't supposed to be a partisan win. This wasn't supposed to be something for Republicans or for Democrats. This was supposed to be for growing families across the state. And with rising prices, a lot of folks are struggling nowadays. We could have given them some immediate tax relief, and it's something that really doesn't discriminate, you know, household income, where you're from. This is something that everybody needs, whether it's a car seat or a stroller, a mattress crib, or, you know, baby bottles, just necessities. We could have provided some real relief, and to see this come out at the very last second on Mother's Day nonetheless, it's very disappointing.
And it does beg the question of why. Who was against this? We heard from the Retailers Association, and they loved the idea. It passed with unanimous bipartisan support. It has a relatively small fiscal impact. So where was the controversy? Why is this coming out? And so we're here today to ask them to reconsider before everything's done and over with, so we can do a little bit to help growing families in the state of Minnesota, because I know buying these baby products to welcome a new family member or two at the same time is incredibly important, or incredibly expensive, and that's why it's incredibly important that we get this figured out. Any questions?
What was the fiscal note on this? I forget.
It was going to cost about $7 million over the course of this budget cycle.
$7 million?
Mm-hmm.
And did they give you any reason for this? Were you able to, I'm sure you inquired about why this disappeared. Did you get an answer?
From my understanding, the House Democrats never put this in any of their offers, and so eventually it came out of the Senate offers as well.
Even though it passed the House, it had passed in the House tax bill.
Yes, it did, and actually we saw a quote recently that Senator Rest had put out saying that this is a good policy. She thought it was great policy. So why isn't it still in there? It seems like even the smallest of tax provisions that help working families today, they just weren't going to go with. And that's the real question. Why did they take it out and on Mother's Day nonetheless? That's what we have to ask here.
And when it passed on the Senate floor as well, it was one of my favorite moments in the Senate to date, because we were out in the open negotiating money coming from one portion of the tax bill to cover this portion of the tax bill, getting people's agreement on the floor, dividing the amendment up, and really making it a bipartisan effort done in good faith. And to see it pass both chambers unanimously with bipartisan support and be taken out, it does beg the question, why?
Can you remind us which baby products are currently tax exempt versus what would be covered under your bill?
Sure. I know that diapers are currently tax exempt. What we were doing was formula. We were adding products like cribs, crib,
yeah, so
those blankets, I think.
Yeah, bassinet holders, diaper holders, strollers, car seats, car seat bases. These are everyday necessities that mothers also need. So yes, while we currently exempt the state sales tax for some necessary items, we can expand that list, and those are products that are also increasing in price as we see. I actually went to Target a couple of days after I dropped this bill, and I was walking down the aisle and I saw some of those prices on those strollers. I'm like, $850. You know, my wife and I, we're trying for a baby right now, and that seems like something that would take a lot of families and basically say, yep, we can't afford this right now, let's put off having a family. And I'm sure with your experience as a mom, you can speak to it as well.
Absolutely. I think part of the reason I'm so passionate about this is I'm in a number of moms groups on Facebook, and the number of growing families in Minnesota I see posting a list of items they need and can't afford breaks my heart. And this felt like one way that we could take the state out of the equation for why that sticker shock was so high.
Senator, you seem to allude to the fact, do you think because this was a Republican idea, that was the genesis of this, even though it became bipartisan, is that one of the reasons why you think it was taken out?
Personally, and I'm not hitting anyone in this room, I appreciate you covering it, but it seemed like some Republicans got credit for doing something really well, and then over the weekend it was quietly pulled away.
In other words, yes.
Can you talk about, obviously you're not, are either of you, you're not on the tax conference committee panel, have you? So because you're not on the conference committee, what, if any, negotiating power do you have? I mean, are you going directly to Representative Gomez or Senator Rest to make your case for this?
So actually, when we had passed it out of the House, again, it was a great moment, like Senator Coleman had alluded to in the Senate. It seemed to be something where everybody across the aisle was kind of a kumbaya moment. And I actually looked across to Chair Gomez, who I've had a great working relationship with, and I gave her a thumbs up, and she gave one back, and that was that. To see this come out at the last moment, we're all kind of sitting here wondering why. And with something that's so mundane and so easy to wrap your head around. This is in my idea a form of corporate or of government greed, and they constantly talk about corporate greed. Why couldn't we have provided just this very, very simple tax cut for Minnesota families? We want to know from them. If we have to go all the time and say, hey, why is this being taken out? We largely don't get an answer. So this is our way of actually going about getting an answer, asking them why in front of you folks.
And I did speak to Senator Rest, and am under the impression that if the House were maybe to come to the table on this issue, it could be back in play.
Are there any current tax credits that help with baby supplies? Like, is there another way to help families pay for these things through tax filing?
I know they're looking into the child tax credit, but nothing like this.
The child tax credit, clothing is currently exempt, food is currently exempt. This would just expand the specific baby product. Yeah.
And in the original amendment, or in the original bill as well, we had filed a school supplies sales tax holiday. So for a number of days leading up to the beginning of school, those items that every student needs to go about their day in our K-12 schools, that would be exempt as well. That part wasn't included simply because they thought it would create some confusion around the tax filings. But we were understood that. We were okay with that, and we said, okay, well, let's agree to disagree, but this part seems to be very easy to do. And that's why we were in the belief that it was in good faith that it was kept in.
The school tax holiday was not amended into the bill onto the floor, or was pulled during the offers?
Pulled during the offers originally. It was accepted out of the House. I don't believe it was in the Senate. Yeah.
Would diaper genies be covered?
Say that one more time.
Diaper genies.
Well, that sounds like they should. That's awesome.
I don't think
So the new products would be baby wipes, cribs and bassinets, crib and bassinet mattresses, crib and bassinet sheets, changing tables, changing pads, strollers, car seat bases, baby swings, bottle sterilizers, and infant eating utensils.
And in that, we have given away every crib that our family has gone through simply because there is such a need for these items, and they are so expensive. It's just crushing families trying to grow. We had an opportunity here to take away some of that pain, and Democrats chose not to go for it.
Senator Coleman, can you speak more broadly? I know you're not on the conference committee, but some of the approaches that Democrats are trying to take with their tax bill is child tax credit. So a credit catered towards low-income families that have kids to help them with those costs. Do you think that is a sound approach to that? I mean, would you support an idea like that, I guess?
Well, what I hear from my district is they certainly support any expansion of the child tax credit, but is that enough, especially when you see the sticker price of some of these items? It was difficult for my family to stomach even some of these items, thank goodness for baby showers. Is this a way we could have done more? And so I think that's kind of the perspective we're taking on this.
For me too, yes, 100%. We can support those ideas and this. It's not a false binary approach here. I heard it all the time on the campaign trail. We're having a hard time affording everyday life. This would have been an easy way to do so, and at a price where the Democrats could stomach it, until a backdoor room. That's when they decided that they couldn't. So we're wondering why.
Well, if you decide to bring a bunch of newborns to the omnibus tax meeting, just give us a heads up.
You know, I've got two that are,
She can have that done.
I got two munchkins that are turning 2 on Thursday that are gonna be coming to the Capitol, so maybe I can have them pay a little visit.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.